Hello, everyone. This is Whitney Will from StarHearth Astrology, and we are here to talk about this week's Aquarius new moon. There is so much going on right around the time of the new moon that it gives me pause for the month ahead and the amount of things that are likely to happen during this lunar month. The new moon is the beginning of a lunar month after the moon has been through a full cycle of growing things, of waxing to fullness, and then of moving back towards and being cleansed by another conjunction with the sun. As I'm recording this on Monday, the 27th, the moon is in its balsamic phase. You could not see it in the sky. We are in the dark moon. We are pulling back into ourselves. There will be a moment, imperceptible, except for in the deepest parts of our intuition, that is a new beginning for the lunar month ahead, which will continue until we have a Pisces new moon, which will happen at the end of February. So part of how astrology works is to say that the quality of the time that something begins affects how it will become. So in this case, we're talking about the quality of the beginning of this lunar month. The chart, the birth chart of the new moon, and what was happening in the time around this new moon. And so when we look at the week ahead, there's so much happening in terms of quality shifting, of stories starting, of a big beginning, right? It is the Chinese New Year, and in many ways, it is this new year. So we start with Monday, the 27th. In the evening, Mercury will ingress into Aquarius. And Mercury has been in Capricorn since the new year. And it will move into Aquarius. And it runs straight into Pluto, as do all planets now moving into Aquarius or any of the fixed signs. And when Mercury hits Pluto, we see the power of voices, the power of words, and the power of ideas fluctuate wildly. Sometimes that looks like proclamations. Sometimes it looks like secrets revealed. Sometimes it looks like the domination of some voices over others. Mercury is the mouthpiece, and Mercury is being handed to Pluto to be a Plutonic megaphone right in the few hours before the new moon, which means it's in the chart of the new moon, which means it will characterize the entire lunar month, has this kind of permanent transit of Mercury conjunct Pluto, even though they're about 8 degrees from the degree of the new moon itself. So we have a month ahead where we will learn news that will shift things in Plutonic ways. And what does that mean in Plutonic ways? Plutonic ways are things in their entirety, things immersive, things beyond our capacity to understand them. So we have this Mercury-Pluto conjunction, very close. to its perfection. And so we can expect to receive lots of information that at the time may seem like it's nothing, and later we realize how important it was, or may seem like a huge deal at the time, and later we learn that it actually didn't matter very much. And there's a confusion around what is being communicated sometimes, and our response to it creates the Plutonic quality of it. And we can expect that to be active until our Pisces new moon. Now, the other thing that happens on Tuesday that is equally as important is Venus enters the pre-shadow of her retrograde. So Venus will station retrograde at the beginning of March in the sign of Aries. And she will retrograde back to about 24 degrees of Pisces, where she will station direct in April. She is in the process, like the moon herself, of going from her crone phase as the bright and beautiful evening star in the western sky that you can see shining so brightly after sunset. She has reached the end of her cycle. She is at her maximum distance from the sun, and she will begin to retrograde in March. Tuesday, she enters the shadow of that retrograde, and the shadow of that retrograde introduces the themes, the stories, the thoughts, the values that will be up for a process of renewal during the course of the retrograde. She is looking at desires. She is looking at quick fixes. She is looking at the same topics that she was reviewing 8 years ago when we had this retrograde in the late winter of 2017. So if you think back to that time thematically, this is that Venus retrograde. March 1st, she will be in the pre-shadow where we are getting hints and seeing the opening movements of her retrograde. The new moon on February 27th is just on the eve of her stationing retrograde. So that lunar month will be much more characterized by her actual retrograde. Then we have the new moon itself, which is exact at 4:35 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, January 29th. But on the other side, so still quite connected to the new moon, we get the station of Uranus direct. And these Uranus stations, you can see Uranus here in the chart. During the new moon, it is at 23 degrees and 15 arc minutes. That is the degree at which it stations direct and begins moving forward again. Uranus direct stations have been quite significant. Some of you might remember January 6th of 2021 as one of those Uranus direct stations. Uranus is moving forward again, the planet of revolutions. I think it will be interesting to see if the resistance to the current regime picks up some inertia and begins moving forward, making plans and organizing during this month. Because remember, Uranus is always going to be the counterculture. So whatever is the dominant culture, Uranus is going to be that which radicalizes the oppressed against that culture, whatever it is. And thinking beyond the scope of the United States, We have every incumbent government falling. So I think we'll be able to see this globally, Uranus stationing and calling the apparent stability or instability, the tension, adding stress to it to find where there are cracks and beginning to oppose the status quo that oppresses the true nature and authenticity of things in the process of their becoming. Now, on the same day, we have the sun in a trine to Jupiter, who is also in the process of stationing. Jupiter won't be officially direct until February 4th, but is at the degree at which it stations direct. So we also have the sun, the sense of power and purpose, in a supportive trine to Jupiter, absorbing the power of Gemini. And the connection between Gemini and Aquarius this year is quite pronounced because when Uranus moves into Gemini in July, it will come into a trine with Pluto, and they will be in a sign-based trine for more than half a decade. So the power that flows between these two signs, so rich with ideas, so forward-thinking, so innovative, in the way this is part of the newness that is inherent in an Aquarius new moon anyway, right? This is the first new moon of the year. That Capricorn new moon shows us the beginning from the ending. It is the beginning that is still colored with the weight of history and tradition and the status quo and the way that things have been. And the new moon in Aquarius is the beginning that's looking towards everything that will change and what is happening in the beyond and what our minds can reach towards, that the structural pieces will have to figure out. This is a dreamer moon, but not in a faith-based way, in an idea, in a value-based way, in a way that transcends the laws and the current status quo of whatever time we're in. It will look different. We have moved from the area of Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions in Earth signs, which we were in for 200 years, to them happening in air signs. Their first conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius, where Pluto is now. And I say this because protests, resistance, how we respond to things will be increasingly not in the material world of the flesh necessarily, but in the Aquarian and the Gemini world of the internet hive mind, of however it's happening. We are moving beyond the forms of the 20th century, even the late 20th century, and stepping foot into a much different space collectively. This year will be jarring, and this month will be jarring, because so much of us will meet the unknown with fear. Some of us will meet it with curiosity. Some of us will meet it with enthusiasm, all of which may be misplaced, right? The unknown means we don't know how to use it. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it will become. But as we look out at the stretch of time and the future, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, the net worth, the net amount of uncertainty is increasing and increasing. And this lunar month promises that as well. So with all of that potent stuff, we also have Venus approaching a conjunction with Neptune and the North Node, which will complete by Saturday, February 1st. So we also have those dreams contained there. And this new moon is so interesting because it's not negative. It's just so potent. There is the potentiality for so many things to come out of this space, for so many things to be revealed and to be brought into the sight of things. It'll be very, very interesting to connect with the Leo full moon, which will happen on February 12th. February 12th, yes. Leo full moon at 24 degrees of Leo, which happens square to Uranus, right? So again, carrying over this Uranian quality, it will be waiting for us in 2 weeks' time at the full moon. There's that. And the final piece about this new moon that has me paying attention is that by the time we get around to next year, the Aquarius new moon will be a solar eclipse, and the year following that, which means this is the final Aquarius new moon that is uneclipsed. So these Aquarian moons will only increase in their potency. And the potency of the instability that they bring and the change that they are bringing in. Remember, this is also, right, as the Aquarius Leo eclipse cycle starts, a year from now, that will be the North Node in Aquarius. We are in for a lot of Aquarian features in the next few years, and this moon is our first real introduction to that. So pay attention to where Aquarius is in your whole sign chart. If you need help finding it, you can check out my Rising Signs as Archetypal Life Paths videos on my YouTube channel. Also, reach out if you might be interested in some virtual classes. I'm feeling really called to step into some kind of teaching again, but I'm trying to gauge interest in that. Okay. Have a wonderful lunar month. Good things are to come. And take some good notes. Step into that bright future, knowing that you were born for this too. Okay, have a good week. I will see you later.